Now that we've set the correct date and time on the controller, we'll review our scheduling options. The first of these is Soft Start, so we'll click that tab to access those settings. Soft Start provides functionality for a sound masking system designer to set the sound masking levels to gradually ramp up at an installation site. This is most important when sound masking is being introduced to a previously occupied space. If the sound masking is activated without gradually ramping up the levels, the occupants of the space may experience a noticeable, distracting experience when that occurs. Setting a soft start acclimation period will help the occupants of the building to gradually become acclimated to the presence of sound masking. This functionality was also available in Qt Pro, where it was referred to as the auto ramping schedule. The Soft Start settings page gives a list of all zones created. If a soft start has been previously configured and enabled, then a checkbox will indicate this in the Enabled column. The start and end dates indicate the time period of the soft start. Recommendations for soft start attenuation settings are available for reference in the online help file and in the QTX installation and operation guide. Depending on whether the space is an open office or private office area, there are different recommendations. For our hypothetical design, we'll set a soft start for all zones, and we'll use the soft start attenuation settings that are recommended for an open office area. We want to apply the same settings to all zones, so first we'll click this checkbox to select all zones, and then click on the pencil icon above to do a batch edit for all zones simultaneously. Alternatively, if we wished to set unique soft starts for the zones independently, then we would select the checkbox for the zone and then click the pencil icon in the zone row. The recommended soft start settings for open office areas are to set the attenuation to -5 dB over the course of 2 weeks. Select the Enabled checkbox to enable the soft start, then select the appropriate level in the attenuation drop-down menu, which is -5 dB. The start date has defaulted to today's date, and the end date has automatically defaulted to a date 2 weeks later. If we wanted to set the start date to a future date, we could do that also and then select an end date 2 weeks later. But for now, we'll leave it starting today. Click the Save button to apply the soft start settings. We'll now see that a soft start is enabled for all zones and is currently running. We can also see the starting attenuation and the current attenuation levels. The attenuation level will gradually decrease over the soft start period, meaning that the level by which the sound masking was attenuated will reduce from -5 dB to 0. At the conclusion of the soft start period, the sound masking will be at the full levels that have been set for the zones. The occupants of the space will have become naturally acclimated to the sound masking levels as they've been ramped up gradually. QTX also provides daily scheduling functionality, which allows attenuation of the sound masking levels between specific time frames to meet reduced masking level needs. For example, if we wanted to have the masking levels for the zones reduced during evening and overnight hours, we can schedule that attenuation to occur at the same time each day. This functionality was also available in Qt Pro, where it was referred to as the time of day operations. To configure schedules in QTX, click on the Schedules tab, and then click the Create button. Begin by naming the schedule. We'll call this schedule Evening Quiet Time. Select the Enabled checkbox to enable the schedule. Next, we'll select which zones we want to have this schedule applied to. We'll select all the zones for the Mount Hickory Stone office: the reception zone, the open office zone, and the cafeteria lounge zone. Now, we'll select which days the schedule will be applied to. This will be the weekday schedule for standard business days, Monday through Friday. The selected days were defaulted to that selection when we began creating this schedule, so we'll leave that as is. We want the ramping down of masking levels to start at 6 p.m. This is when most occupants of the office have left for the day. We'll also want the masking to be ramped back up to full levels the next day before most building occupants have arrived. We'll schedule that to end at 6 a.m. The duration of the ramping down and ramping up of sound masking levels has been defaulted to 120 minutes. But we could adjust this if we wished. The other options are 30, 60, and 90 minutes. With a 120-minute duration, the ramping down of sound masking levels will begin at 6 p.m. and complete at 8 p.m. The masking level will have been decreased by the amount that we set in the attenuation drop-down menu. Let's set that to the maximum level of attenuation, -10 dB. For ramping the sound masking levels back up the next morning, the ramp up will begin at 4 a.m. and complete at 6 a.m. At that time, the sound masking levels will no longer be attenuated and will have resumed outputting at the levels that have been set for the zones. Click the Save button to save the schedule. Now, if we click on the Schedule Selection drop-down menu, we'll see our evening quiet time schedule listed. We can edit the schedule to make a change, or we can delete the schedule if it's no longer needed. Moving along, let's now review the System Info tab.